Welcome to the first video in the series where a good friend of mine, Sam, and I go over some of his code and discuss the journey of becoming a software developer. I made another video explaining why we're doing this and why we're recording our calls. So if you're interested in getting a little bit more context, then I'll leave the link in the description. But in short, Sam has decided to become a programmer about 6 months ago, and since then I kind of been sort of mentoring him on this journey, and every week or two we're having a Skype call in which we discuss some of the issues he may be having at the time. Simply, at some point we realized that these calls may have some valuable information, either to his audience or my audience. Therefore, we decided that maybe it would be a good idea to simply record these and share it with the world. In this particular episode, at the beginning, we get into a little bit of a discussion on how Sam feels about programming, some of the challenges that he may have regarding the hours he puts in, the kind of the work ethic, and the kind of just general programming work hygiene, if you can call it this way, before diving into the app that Sam has been writing for the last couple of weeks. I made an assignment for him to write a simple weather app where you type in a city name and you get information about the weather in that particular city. So whilst it is quite simple, it's the first time that Sam has dived into writing his own code, not from scratch, because he's basing his code on some other app that he built before from a tutorial. But he himself admitted that this was the first time he escaped the so-called tutorial hell. He mentioned that previously he's mainly been focused on following tutorials and doing a lot of copy-pasting of code, but before he started working on this weather app, he didn't realize where there were actual areas that he was missing. So whilst this is a very simple code, we're finding a lot of areas in which he can improve, and we're trying to focus on these. So right there, we're discussing a number of things, from displaying correct error messages, doing correct try and catching, going into time zones, doing a little bit of Git. The discussion kind of goes into different tangents. Therefore, if you're a software developer yourself, if you're learning how to code yourself, we hope that you'll find at least some of what we talk about useful, and some of the examples we go over maybe help you as well. Without further ado, welcome to this video, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we're enjoying these talks. If you'd have any comments or if you have any questions about the things that we talk about during these calls, then definitely let us know and we'll be very happy to get back to you. So that's it. Here goes the first video, the first recording. Enjoy. Oh, and by the way, I want to apologize for the quality of my mic. I'm going to do something about it. It's going to be better. But for now, it was a bit shit. So, sorry. As you can tell by the length of my hair, I'm locked up somewhere right now and I don't have any place to go to buy a better mic. So it's a little bit shit. I'm sorry. Well, either way, I hope it's useful anyway. Yeah. Don't apologize for everything, boy. Here goes the first video. I hope you enjoyed. Bye! Sam, how are you?
Very good, thank you, mate. Yeah, cracking on. Just,
Good.
yeah, got to a bit of a crossroad, so this is why I thought I'd give you a shout.
Day 53, is it?
Let me check my diary, dear diary. Where are we? Oh no, that's a JSON file. That's not my diary. Such a coder. Got a JSON file on my desktop. Yeah, day 53. Yes.
Cool.
Right. Out of 100, and probably many more.
Right. I'm quite proud of it, having managing to go through already halfway through this project. The 100 days project, obviously, not the entirety of finding a job, but yeah, solid work on, at least on consistency, even though because you're not counting days off as part of your count, do you?
Not as part. I'm counting it as part of the challenge, but not counting the days off as part of the figures.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes sense.
So you actually did spend more than 53 days since you started. It's just some of them were days off.
Yeah. So I guess as part of the challenge, I'll have days off, but not include. I don't add another day to the current total. But yeah, even before I did the challenge, which I started, what was it, beginning of April maybe? I'd probably already done about 100 days anyway, because I guess coming from a background where habits and consistency has been, I guess it's part of my career is helping other people develop those habits. I'm pretty good in terms of getting a routine going myself. So yeah, even before I did these 100 days of code challenge, I'd probably already done 100 days of code.
Of code anyway.
And had been tracking my hours as well, because I think even when I first started looking at doing this journey, I was watching a lot of videos from I guess more experienced guys who could see two patterns of people that would go at it hell for leather and then either burn out and give up, or just the steady guys that would do, I don't know, between 30 minutes to 4 to 5 hours daily. They would progress at a longer duration, and I thought, okay, well, let me just track my hours. I started off doing, I aimed for 15 hours a week over the 7 days, and got to that good level and thought I could probably eke out another few. So the last probably month or so, I've been aiming for 20 and hitting that probably up until the last couple of weeks where I've dropped back down to 15. But that's mainly due to, I guess, doing harder stuff. And if I'm honest, I went through a couple of weeks of having quite bad headaches. Not even quite bad headaches, but consistent head tension.
Did that get any better though?
It has now, yeah.
Right.
But I started to track that as well. So the head tension was a new thing for me because I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Was it hay fever? Was it my new headphones? Was it Bluetooth? Was it Wi-Fi? Was it screen time? And I think I've boiled it down to, it was just basically just stress, and just mild stress from, oh my God, I've still got 70 more days of this challenge to go and I still haven't got a project. I think now I've started to have a project that's a tangible representation of what I've learned. I just feel a bit more relaxed now.
Okay.
So there's a little background on my
No, fair play. Did you say Bluetooth and Wi-Fi just there?
Yeah, to be honest, I made a headache suspects list of all the things that I thought it could potentially be that was causing it, and basically tested each one. It could be. So yeah, if it was chemtrails, I'd stay inside in an airtight room for a week and see if anything changed. So honestly, I tried. What was it? Wi-Fi? Was it the noise cancelling in my headphones that was doing something to my ears and something? But it was just stress. So I'm really starting to see how important breaks are and monitoring your mental health whilst doing. Yeah, I guess not just challenges, but just this journey specifically is pretty stressful because there's a lot to learn. And if you're on a timeline where you've got to get a job or you're doing a job at the same time as trying to learn this, it can be quite stressful. So I really am aware of that, and it's a new sensation for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously it's non-trivial that you also have other things that you're doing during that time. You're not just focused on coding. Like, you still have some clients from consulting, from coaching, right?
Minimal, to be honest. And I think that's kind of it's been a good thing. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of why I started this journey, is just not having the consistent client base from the coaching.
Yeah.
But also then once the clients started to drop off, it meant I was lucky enough to fully focus on this. So I haven't really had too many other distractions, which has been a good thing, I guess. So I've been doing it, I say whole hog, I mean, on average 3 hours per day, 7 days a week, apart from days off. So it doesn't seem like a lot on the surface, but when you're constantly learning new stuff, that 3 hours is quite draining. So I would do 3 hours in the morning, and then by the afternoon I'd just be like, almost a zombie. Like, I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a strain. So I wouldn't claim it's been like, oh my God, I'm so stressed and it's my life. But I'm also aware that the brain can also only do a finite amount in a day. So usually I try to get to that level or nearabouts, and then just say, right, laptop down. Let me go and do something else.
Yeah,
and
I feel
that. Something else I've also struggled with is what to do with my afternoons, because I almost feel like I've wasted all of my afternoons because I'm not motivated to do anything else.
Oh, okay.
My brain's just fried.
But did you try doing other things?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I've tried doing stuff that's not around a screen. So just passive listening to comedy podcasts has been quite helpful. So it's not really proactive, but at least it's better than doing Zippo and just going to sleep, I guess. But I have looked at doing other sort of stuff related to coding, like watching videos about career progression and how to build resumes and portfolios and that kind of stuff. So it's not technical focused learning, but it's still related to the coding journey. So it just depends on how I feel. Like some days I'm literally spent, you know, by the time I do my morning sessions, and then other days I think, okay, well, I've still got a bit left in the tank. Maybe I'll go and do something else.
How do you think this will translate to your reality once you do land the job, where you know this, you probably will be expected to put in anything between 5, 6, up to 8 hours a day, which no doubt will be a very different form of work being put in, because you will not be doing tutorials for hours. You'll just be actually coding things in, right? But nonetheless, like that would just increase the amount of hours you have to put in. Whoa.
Yeah.
How do you feel that will change? And like, I'm sure that when you get there, like you'll have different answers to the one you give right now, but I'm just curious, how do you see it right now?
Yeah, good question. And I guess one factor is I'll have to put the hours in. And I think this is the difference now is I've got an option to either hammer through it or rest and recover and go at it again tomorrow. So I guess the reality is I'll have to go through it. But I also envisage once I get to a certain level, I mean, I'm capable of doing 8, 9, 10 hours of work if I can do the work without thinking too much. And I think what's happening is when you're doing this coding journey, by the time you learn something, you think, right, okay, if I was to do that for another 5 hours, I could do it. But you're already up to the next level. It's okay, well, let me go and learn something else. So there's such a disparity between the challenge and your ability, and that's always moving. Yeah. So I'm guessing once I get to a job that there'll still be a gap, because I'll always be learning, but it won't constantly be learning. And every now and again, I'll be doing something that says, Sam, go and do this for 4 hours. I'll be like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing. Whereas at the moment, it's, okay, let me do this for 4 hours. It's like, I don't even know where to start with this. And then you've got to learn how to do the thing before you can do the thing. So that's how I would...
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it, yeah.
Envisage it.
Yeah, I mean, learning definitely stays there for a very long time after you get a job, and like you do more like things they already know. Like you'll still carry on doing the learning bit, but it's a very different proportion, I guess. And I'm wondering, so since you jumped on the exercise, so rather than doing tutorials and like pure learning, like from then on you sort of jumped a little bit more onto actually coding stuff, right? Like having to figure things out on your own, like the logic, and then coding it in. Since then, did you try putting in more hours, like doing just today when you do 7.5 hours?
Yeah, it's hit and miss. I think like for example, yesterday when I was doing the styling stuff on my app, that was CSS. That's sort of inbuilt knowledge, so I didn't have to go and learn any of that. Maybe just refresh it. Those 3 hours that I did yesterday just flew by. I was like, wicked, I really enjoyed that. Whereas now I'm sort of applying knowledge when I'm building stuff and not following other people's code. It's still tough, and it's still quite strenuous, because like a lot of it, I don't know where to start. So there's figuring out where to start. Then once you've figured out a route, then it's kind of got to learn how to do that, and then you've got to do it. So there's almost an extra stage, but it's necessary to go through that process. So it's hit and miss. So like I've got like a to-do list of features and things I want to do on my app. Some of them I was able to do in like 20 minutes, maybe less. It's like for example, today I found there was one thing that I was missing from the spec, and I managed to implement it within like 4 minutes. But then there's another thing that I'm looking at on there, and I'm thinking, I don't know how to do that. And then I've had a look at a couple of ways of doing it, all of which look like they would take 4 hours. And then not only have you got to learn how to do it, you've then got to take that approach and embed it into your own code base and get all that to work within the code base. So it's hit and miss. It depends on, do I know how to do it? Do I know where to start? Have I got a plan of attack, basically?
Yeah, fair play.
And sometimes if I haven't got a plan, that's usually when I give you a shout, is to say, I'm at a stage, I've kind of looked at a few ways of doing this, and rather than me go 2 days down one route, which I guess will never really be wasted because you'll still learn stuff anyway, but there'll potentially be easier approaches to tackle certain things that an experienced coder would say, oh yeah, well you can just do this, rather than spend 2 days doing it that way, and it might not even work. So
yeah, well, it's
yeah,
not
it just
that
depends.
Yeah, like it happens to professional, like experienced programmers to fall in the same trap as well, and like get 2 days of work into something that you can fix with just a few lines of code, but you don't realize that. Yeah, I think it's more like I told you before, it's more of like intuition that you develop over time that helps you get over these moments where you're completely lost. Like you at least have some form of understanding of which way things should be going, I think, right? And that just takes time. Like that's just the bottom line. Like you will be bad at it for some time, and then you will slowly get better at it. That's kind of part of the craft, right?
Yeah. I think also as well, I'd like to get into the habit of being comfortable asking, not for help, but more sort of guidance. So rather than not even attempt it and say, oh, show me how to do it, it's more, okay, well, I've had a look at a few options. Can you just say, like, guide me and say, right, this is the option, and then I would go off and try and do that thing.
Fair
so
enough,
I want to get into the habit of being comfortable going and asking for help, but also not be lazy and actually attempt to do it myself first. So
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because you can also do it on a smaller scale. Like, we don't need to jump on a call for 2 hours. You can just like pop a question and be like, hey, which way do I go? And this essentially comes down later when you don't do calls with other people, to ask for questions. You simply go ahead and ask them on like StackOverflow or forums or Reddit, and you're trying to figure out like a particular technique for whatever you try to do, and somebody will just guide you a little bit and give you maybe a name of a functionality that you want to be looking at, or particular frameworks and libraries you could be looking at for that issue that you're struggling with, and then it's your task to like go and explore them further. So like that person will not take you through the whole thing, they'll just give you a guideline that you then can follow. So in a similar way, that works too.
Yeah, cool. And again, that's another habit I'd like to build is don't wait until you're at that brick wall. Say just do it on the smaller scale, which I haven't really been doing. I'll try and figure out all those small scale ones, and then eventually it'd be like, nah, it's time to call void.
Yeah, fair enough. Anytime.
Yeah,
right.
I do use StackOverflow a bit, but never actually posed my own question yet, because usually at this stage my questions have already been answered, so it's a case of finding an answer to that.
It's actually not very common that you find a question that hasn't been asked and hasn't been answered. The worst cases are questions that have been asked and have not been answered, because there is like very little you can do about it at that point, I think, other than like upvoting. But you have a similar struggle, and like you find a question that summarizes what you're going through in different words, and no answers, and you go like, well, fuck, well, somebody already tried that, what's my plan B now? So I feel that when it comes to asking about Stack Overflow, is probably the biggest opportunity for that is when you're doing either something very niche about a well-established platform or language or whatever that you may be using, right? That you're just handling like a very granular problem that most people wouldn't even come across. That's when you may find an opportunity to ask a question, right? Or you're dealing with a library or a framework that is very new, and the questions haven't been asked yet, or it has changed like significantly between one version and another, like Angular 1, 2, whatever, like different transitions between versioning. Is when like about that new library, new version, new framework, whatever it is, like the questions haven't been asked yet. And actually, I think the only popular questions that I have asked were on like relatively new topics, because even the niche ones I didn't really get much friction, but that was still the only places I could find any reason to ask questions. Like, essentially, if you were on Stack Overflow like 10 years ago, and start asking questions like on a very basic level, like how do you convert a boolean to an int, whatever, right? In JavaScript, like that, if you posted that question 10 years ago, you'd like have a million points by now, right? But at this stage, there's very little that hasn't been answered. and asked. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. So do you want to jump into what did you come to me with today?
Yeah, cool. Shall I?
So do you want to share your screen? Exactly, yeah. And we'll just go over that.
Yeah, let's have a look. If we do. Okay, right. Just the code?
Well, show me the app itself, and let's see how that works.
Welcome to my weather app.
Oh, beautiful.
So here's...
Yeah,
sorry.
Pencil, yeah.
Let's move that. Okay, yeah. So here's something I actually found this morning. I currently had 3 conditionals depending on the cloudiness and the temperature. So if the temperature was below a certain amount and the clouds were below, it would do a certain background. I found an anomaly where the clouds were above 50% and the temperature's above 20. So I realized there was no background change with that. So this morning I quickly added, as you can see, a background for when this condition happens. Temperature's above 22 and cloudiness is above 50. That didn't exist this morning. And I was able to implement that within like a couple of minutes. I just went, because I knew the process. So that was quite easy.
Good job, yeah. Do you remember when I did say it, when I did write it up, I said I didn't cover every single base. I didn't tell you
You did.
And I
thought this morning, I bet that's what Voy was on about, because I'd forgotten about that.
There was actually another one, but you handled that as well.
Did I? What was the other one then?
What's the background before you type in the city?
Yeah, so like a default one.
Yeah, essentially.
Cool.
So you got that.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah.
Yes. So the weather app, as far as I can see, functions, I would say 99%, and I'll show you why in a minute. So all the conditionals seem to work. Why is that not working? So yeah, temperature above 20, cloudiness below 50%, you get a nice sunny background. The sunrise and sunset times don't quite come out correctly. They come out as a string and they look kind of correct, but if I was to go and Google what is the sunrise time in Kabul, it obviously isn't 13 minutes past midnight. So
right, okay.
The functionality is not quite there, and even with London, there's British summertime coming into play as well. So
do you know
I'm sure
why?
I can have.
Do you know why is that?
Yeah, because the function I used, it changes it to UTC, which is not BST. And funny enough, what I was doing before I jumped on the call was I was doing a bit of debugging on this to work out where my functions were happening. So I got it to print out the first part of the function, which does look like it's correct, because the sunrise for London is 4:54.
Do you want to Google what actually is, like, if you like find what actually it should be today?
Yeah.
So we know that, so we can compare these values between what we.
Yeah. So here we go. So I even have a section. So it should be 4:54. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yeah, that's sunrise.
4:54 and 1 minute past 9.
Yeah.
So on the app, I've got it coming out correctly in the first part of the functionality, and I'll show you what I've been doing there is dropping console logs here, and here.
Cool.
So date object is coming out correct, but when I change it to UTC string, it's going back to GMT and not British summertime. So it's between those two lines of code where I'd have to change this function here.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking it's all very well, I could do that manually, but what happens in October when we switch back to GMT again? So
yeah.
Probably have to be some extra functionality in there.
Scroll down on the app, so let's see what it actually displays over there. The actual.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So getting sunrise, 3 something, and sunset. Yeah, your sunset is displaying past midnight, doesn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, I made a note that. Where are we? Yeah. my input is 1 hour behind, and my output is 3 hours ahead.
Is that for any?
Oh, that's a good point.
For any city you'd query.
Let's try Oslo. That'd be an hour or so ahead, wouldn't it? Yeah, it looks like it is. Yeah, that looks around the same. Oh no.
Right.
Ooh. Yeah, that doesn't look right, does it? Especially not because that's nothing like the date object on here.
You only printing for sunrise, or are you printing for both?
Printing for both. I did a long ass way of doing both.
Right.
In these two little functions here, which to me look identical. I just changed it from date object to date object 2, yeah.
Right, so first thing I'm seeing, if we look at a console log, we have two dates that are being printed. The one that's 454 and 354, and then the second one is 316, 216. Now, do you know why is this?
No, I didn't even spot that. Yeah, good point.
That's fine. First one is from London, second one is Oslo. It's just our log remained.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you type London, the first bit got displayed, the 454, 354. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we typed Oslo, the second bit got displayed. So now we're looking only second bit. Like the first bit is irrelevant now.
Is it like doing a cumulative?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
It just kind of, the log remained. Like if you now would type any other city, like it would also print, yet again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So so that functionality doesn't quite work. But other than that, I'm fairly happy with the app in its current form.
Yeah, it's interesting why it happens though, doesn't it? Yeah. Can you refresh the page and see what happens then? So if we start clean, and you type any city, like London, for instance, like what we start with, and type London again. Right, and go Oslo and then back to London. So that should have changed, yeah, and then go back to London. Oh no, so they're independent, right? Right, so okay, well, so to start with, maybe saying this, dealing with date and time objects, or generally with date and time in code, is a pain in the ass, massive pain in the ass. It's based on, like when you think about it, date and time in real world, they're based on very old non-standard concepts that are kind of built without information age in mind. So you have countries like Spain that just decided to move themselves to another time zone for no geographically accurate reason, right? Or political reasons. You have countries that have 2 time zones. There's just so much, and then you've got the US that has 3, right? In general, it's a massive pain in the ass, and that's even before you start thinking about leap seconds, about what they call leap year, right? When there's 1 extra day, 1 less day in February. There is just so much that if you ever have to build an app that includes any kind of date manipulation, you'll have a tough time. And I'm saying it because what I suggest is that we just ignore it. Like, you got data from the server, you displayed it, you managed to parse it. There is some difficulties that we're seeing, but I would just say, you know what, I wouldn't handle it right now. You may have to handle it someday in the future, but this isn't particularly like useful knowledge as a programmer to understand how fucked up the daytime system is. It really is, man. Like, I've built, I think, a couple of apps based on it, and it was always just difficult. Always. There's no easy way. There's no standard way. Like, different libraries handle things differently. Time zones, generally just a mess. So we're getting some various results for no good reason. Fair play, that's what happens. Actually, the reason one thing I can actually explain straight away is that the reason we're seeing 454 and 354 at two different moments when we're printing them, right? Just here, is that one of them displays the time in British summertime and the other one doesn't, and it actually says that right there, right? So have you ever seen that plus 0100 before? Do you know what that is?
I do in real world terms, but probably...
Yeah, like in real world terms, that's kind of what I'm referring to, yeah.
Yeah, it just means it's GMT plus 1 hour.
Yeah, and technically we call this the offset, so the hour offset of a particular time zone. And each time zone comes with its own offset, and depending on the time of the year, in some places around the world, this offset changes, like with the summertime, right? So the reason why we're seeing one value in first and another value later is that, as far as I remember, standard UTC is always in GMT. And then you can, I think there's something along the lines of being able to add the offset to it, but I bet that by default it just formats it to GMT, and like you'd have to tell it to format it differently. So I think this is what's happening.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's that to UTC.
Correct.
They did used to have a 2 GMT, but that got deprecated, I think is the right word.
Yeah, that's the right
so
word.
So I understand what it's doing there, but yeah, in terms of adding the offset, you'd have to do extra functionality. And I think, you've called it right. I could spend ages trying to work it out and figure it out, but in the long run, pound for pound, probably not worth it. And which I'm happy with.
I bet you are. The actual reason why the first date is displayed correctly, because I believe that, although I could be wrong here, but I'm thinking that the date object will default to your system's time zone. Yeah. And since you're in Britain right now, that will be British summertime. That's why you're seeing it in the first place. So the date object tries, take the offset you're currently in to account, and the UTC string doesn't. And also keep in mind that here we're querying sunrises and sunsets for different places around the world. So when we see something like, I don't know, like Bangkok, right? Having a sunrise that's more around, your midnight. To you, the display is incorrect, but it's because it's displaying in British summertime. It's not displaying in local hours in Bangkok, right? This is why there is this inaccuracy. So you'd have to, not only to display this correctly, not only you'd have to figure out how to provide time zones to these UTC strings and all that, you'd have to have a list of all the different time zones and their offsets, their hourly offsets, and depending on the city that you typed in, you'd have to display in that local time zone. I hope you can see how fucked up it gets very, very quickly. You did a similar thing with country name expansion. So you expanded, UK to United Kingdom. You expanded these names by looking up code in a database of names, right? So it's a similar concept. You have a database of time zones, and you have to look it up through that database, through that JSON file, wherever you're storing it in, and return an offset, and then transform your date objects, yada yada yada. Yeah. So we got the explanation, but we're not going to fix it, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's cool. But what was cool is even this morning, those debugging tricks of putting in console logs and just checking the data at each point was really helpful. Yeah, so even within a couple of seconds, I was like, oh, that's obviously where the issue is it's drawing from a GMT time and not the BST. But
correct.
So that was cool just to practice that and do my first bit of debugging and using those things that you told me and stuff that I learned about the other day. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen on your post that you've been doing quite a bit of debugging course, tutorials recently.
Yeah.
Did you try doing actual, how would you call that? Using debugging using debugging tools?
Not yet. I haven't needed to. I think at the moment, just using console logs spattered around has solved most of the issues. But
sure,
I'm aware of that process when you're using a debugging tool and was it jumping over and skipping over and going in and stuff like that, and checking the scope. breakpoints, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so you did go through all that, because I only like briefly gave you like an introduction to it a couple of calls ago. So you did manage to like go into it and like actually understand how you can like jump into a function, get out of a function, right? Like make breakpoints. Perfect. Yeah. So that probably would be a good part of a challenge. Maybe if we draft the next next exercise, is to say, well, give yourself a challenge to not use console logs this time. Do all the debugging you can through the debugging tools, right? Because both methods are okay. They're kind of good for different reasons. But I feel if in this case you put a lot of effort into doing primarily console log debugging, well, it's not like you put an effort. You just kind of chose to do it in that form. Then doing it using debugging tools, just to kind of get both experience in both worlds, I think would be a good idea.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Cool.
Right,
so that's that. Yeah. Okay.
So that's the app. As far as I can see, I've done all the functionality. The only one thing I didn't do was if it did a fetch and it couldn't find the sunrise time for a certain city, I haven't put that functionality in, but I haven't come across it and haven't needed it as far as I can see.
Okay, it's actually I came up with this because the API itself mentioned that not for every city all their information is returned. So that instantly made me think about that. But obviously, if you can't find a city that doesn't return all the information, or maybe that it's other information that we're not displaying here that is not that doesn't have, sometimes in some cases that it doesn't exist, then like it's fine to skip it as well. That should be cool. Yeah. So what if you type a wrong city? Did you get around that? Nice. City not in database. Check your spelling right. And I've seen on your Instagram that you also handle like if just the request goes wrong.
Do you want your video on my screen or not?
What do you mean?
Like, am I better off hiding you? Because I don't know if you're appearing on your screen as well.
Nope. You're appearing on my screen actually, so it's all good.
Okay. So if I mess up the fetch, or deliberately spelling that wrong.
Okay. So you're adding an extra P to like break that API.
Yeah. So the API call won't work. So if I type in Kent, it'll say we failed to connect to the API. So I guess I would just have another, like something along the lines of if weather dot whatever is not available, then print, unavailable. So if you were to type London and it didn't know the cloudiness level, it would just display data unavailable there instead of the actual figure.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Yeah, to parse your data that comes back, and for whatever data that you expect to see but you don't see, you just display a warning message or like an information message directly in your app, right? Okay, so on that, I think I only have a couple of comments, and that is so well done getting it done. Like it's great you've got the functionality working. That's solid, and especially that there are these two types of errors. And we're going to go on to talking about how there are millions of ways of doing things, right? So this is one of them, and it's valid, especially when you're learning. It's valid to kind of approach it this way. You'll come back to it in 2 years' time, and you would have done everything differently, and that's natural, that's normal. So this isn't in any ways trying to say that, okay, well, you lost some points for this exercise, but I also want to point you in a direction where you could do things maybe better in some way when it comes to this particular functionality. Right, and it's not that you haven't figured it out. It's probably that you just haven't come across that particular thing that I'm about to talk about. That you didn't know that you could do it this way. Again, don't blame yourself for it. Nothing along these lines. Let's just go into it. So
I love it.
The way we actually are checking whether the city is in the database or it's not is by checking for response.ok. Right. So we happen to have this. Property of the response object, right? That tells us whether it succeeded or not. It doesn't, however, tell us why it hasn't succeeded. It just says it worked or it didn't work, right? And the truth is that there could be a whole lot of different reasons why the response didn't work. You could have misspelled the city, right? But it could be that anything else didn't work. Like you maybe provided a wrong API key. And that would also return a response that would be not okay. That would go to the else statement on line 25.
Yeah.
Right? So the response would be returned. You wouldn't get an error, so you wouldn't be caught by the try catch clause. It would simply be returned, and the response itself would not be okay. But the problem wouldn't be that the city is not in a database. It would be error with your API key, for instance. Right? So
wouldn't that fit in that one though? I know, because it connected to the API but didn't get the data.
Gotcha. Or there was anything else. Like there could be any other issue, right? Like there could be a vast amount of issues for why it didn't work. So this is actually where we introduced something called response codes. I think that's the way it's called. And I think you'd probably even say this is HTTP response codes. I think that's like one of the ways you could Google that to find more information. Actually, do a quick Google and let's verify that I'm getting a right word here before we write it down. So, yeah, if you just pop a new tab or whatever, and HTTP response codes, status codes, cool, so very similar.
Okay.
Right. So there is a number of these integer codes that people have attempted to agree that they will mean something, and to an extent, a lot of people did manage to stick to that agreement. Not always, but in general, yes. And this actually, if you open up any of these lists, like just any of those these links, that will give you like a full list of what they could be. That's a pretty good list of information that of what actually is happening in there. Essentially, this is saying that when you're sending a response, you can also notify whoever is listening to that response about how things went, whether they went okay or whether they haven't gone okay. So if you go to the very top, you'll find the success codes, for instance. And in general, I don't know much about these things, but as far as I understand, most correct responses will give you the 200 response code, which is okay, right? And that's what you normally expect as things went fine. So just looking at that, you can think, okay, well, we could say, rather than checking response okay, which essentially, behind the scenes, by the way, checks whether response code is equal to 200, most likely. We can kind of translate this functionality, this if statement logic, into checking what the response code is and comparing them against these values that you find over here. And you could probably assume that if a particular API doesn't have a list of what their response code means, it's going to be like an international sort of accepted standard, which, like I said, I think in most cases is people agreed on, but I have a feeling that in some cases not so strict. But more importantly, if you scroll lower, you'll find other response code, especially the error codes, which are 400s. And one of the interesting ones, and server errors, right? One of the interesting ones is the 404, which is something you might have seen before, have you? 404 not found. Like it's almost like people who aren't programmers, they know about this, because any page you go to, that if something just doesn't exist, it just means, it's just not found. Whatever you've been looking for is not found, and you're being given the the 404 message. What it simply says is that this response code correlated with something was not found is 404. That's all there is to it, right?
Yeah, I've just reminded myself I did look at potentially doing that.
Yeah, I can see you did.
A while ago.
Yeah, well done.
But so you pluck the error code from whatever it brings back, and then display the error code so you know why it didn't work, not just, hey, it didn't work, but I didn't actually do that.
Yeah, although actually you don't display the error code to the user. That's a whole other story about how do you take the the verbose information that you as a programmer understand and display it to a end user that that we don't assume understand these messages.
Okay, yeah.
So we never go and say, oh, request didn't work because of error 505. You never say.
Yeah.
In most cases, you just say, server error, please try again. Something along these lines. You try to translate it to them. Whilst at the same time, maybe like in a console, you can log it out for yourself, so you can have some access to more information. In the bigger apps, in apps that that have some connectivity to like a database, then you can say, okay, well, whenever we receive a 404 code to the user, we say, okay, not found, but to our like logging servers, we send a message saying, oh, this particular user on that particular day have gotten into that error and they shouldn't have, so let's do something about it. So you can like log it both, for yourself in like verbose way, but to the user you display more like a useful but not so cryptic message, so that they can take it to you. And in some cases you can add that extra code, but don't make it the primary thing. So in some cases, for instance, when your apps may crash or any kind of functionality you have in any program may crash, sometimes they tell you, okay, something didn't work, and then on the bottom they say error code equals something, and they just tell you like copy this if you're gonna talk to support. I don't know if you've seen this before, but a number of apps of software does that. So it's there so that in case you want to contact support, you have something to tell them. But the main message for you is not that code. The main message for you is something went wrong. I'm sorry. Like try doing whatever you were trying to do again, right? Along these lines.
Yeah, makes sense.
So now that we know this, and I mean obviously you figured out already. All I was trying to say is that rather than checking for response okay, we want to check the response codes, the status codes, right? And we say, okay, if it's 200, then we carry on with displaying the data. If it's 404, then we're saying city is not in the database. If it's maybe some of the 500 codes, then we say there is a server error, try again later. Kind of along these lines, right? That there is this you expect a number of things that can go wrong. And for instance, if we go to the Open Weather app, it may be a good idea to see if they did include any response codes on their page.
That's right. Response codes.
They do mention it. Well, let's have a look at that first. First link. See what
this one.
The first one, the one from the very top. That's an example of API response. No, so these aren't response.
It's all about the weather, yeah.
Yeah, they're just like encrypting something behind some codes. Try error codes. That's also another way to put it. Normally, you normally would read for error codes rather than just response codes. I did remember seeing it somewhere. Hold on, let me check it on my own. Let's have a look. Current weather data. Like in the API doc, I think there was something about these codes.
Okay, I think I've got that somewhere.
Could be wrong. I could have like misread it back then, but I have a feeling I did see it here. Maybe not. Right. Well, it could be that they simply are not listing that, or just we can't find it straight away, which is fine as well. Yeah, again, that's fine. In which case, easiest way to find out, what codes correspond to what messages, what errors, is to cause your app to break and simply console log, or in other way, catch what the response, code is. Right, and then okay, if the message is wrong, then they do 404, or like if there's an API key response, they do like 5 something, right? So you can kind of find these out and at least catch those most common ones that you can estimate, and for everything else, just display like a generic message, right? That's kind of one way to handle it. So it was mainly about the idea of we want to be prepared for more types of errors than just one, right? So here we handle the city not in database, but we have to remember that the response can be not okay for more than one for more than one reason. Yeah. Cool. So on kind of on a similar note, I mean, so first of all, did that make sense? That whole response code story. Since you already seen
really
it,
did.
I'm just kind of reiterating some knowledge here, right?
No, you're right. Yeah, I mean that because I did see that the object it does have it has a code, I guess key value pair, but it does also have a message there.
Oh yeah.
So all you would do is just grab it straight from the object.
Oh yeah, if they do give you a message.
Print whatever that is, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of went down that route initially, but at the time I wrote that, I was like, I have no idea how to do that because I think that I looked at that really early on, whereas I could probably work that one out.
Fair enough. Yeah. So cool. Yeah. So that's just the something to keep in mind.
But also, valid point because there could be multiple reasons that it doesn't work, not just because the city isn't in the database.
Correct.
So it's worthwhile knowing.
Also, don't always rely on message being delivered to you. Like sometimes 404 will come with no message. So it is good to if you can verify that these messages do appear to maybe use it, but it probably is like a long-term safer solution to just look at the code and conclude what the message will be by yourself. Also because they maybe can change spelling of that in the future, and that'll kind of give a different message to your users than the one you're relying on, right? I can only just think about maybe previously this was the message would be not found, right? And that was good enough for you, given that your app was not a weather app, but it was doing something completely different, but somehow relied on this API. And with time they changed from not found to city not found, like it is currently. Whilst if your app has nothing to do with looking for weather in cities, suddenly this message is meaningless to your customers, right? To whatever your users are. Which is why relying on messages may not always be a good idea. It can be, but just parsing the code and figuring out what the exact message should be yourself is normally a better better idea here. Okay, so so moving from that, just another thing that I quickly want to mention is that looking at the other error message, right? The failed to connect to the API. The question I want to ask you now is, this code will run, the catch error code will run if anything goes wrong between line 13 and 29, right?
Yeah.
Anything that goes wrong in there, we will display the message failed to connect to the API. Now, the problem with this is that we do more things between line 13 and 29 than just connecting to the API. We are first figuring out what a query is not empty. We are then performing a fetch request, Then we are parsing the response to find out if it's okay. We are getting the JSON data from that response. We are setting weather, which goes on to changing the reactive state of your app. So all these different things are not connecting to the API, right? There is connecting to the API on that list, but there is another 5 things that isn't connecting to the API. So if anything goes wrong with any of these other things on the list of things that are happening between line 13 and 29, the user will get the same message that will, in this case, be incorrect.
Good point.
Right? So it's a good way to handle it. Like, it's good that you're handling, hey, there's something wrong with the API, with connecting to the API. Sure. Try and catch, perfect, right? Maybe even, there are different methods. Again, I'm not going to say which one may be better here. It's more about what scope are we trying and catching, right? Right now, it's the entire scope. And I can see already that they can see that it's not exactly correct here, right? So maybe try to suggest how can we fix that? And again, there's a multiple ways. So just whatever comes to your head, we'll iterate on that.
You could have a few more, I guess, nested if and else statements in there, like if you're unable to parse it for whatever reason, have an error message. If the API key isn't valid, obviously throw another error for that. So yeah, I would guess. So I think, yeah, because try and catch is kind of it catches all the errors that could potentially go wrong.
Correct.
Whereas this alert here is specific to
the response.
A certain thing going wrong. So I guess I would just add a few more if else with alerts in there, depending on.
So actually, now that you mentioned that, let's also notice that the two alerts that we're creating, the cause of them is very different from the programming perspective. So the city not in database alert is based on whether the response is okay or not. So whether, and like we just discussed, mainly what we're trying to find here is whether the city is in the database, right? So the checking the status 404 or not. So this alert is caused by the response object not like the value of the OK not being true, right?
Yeah.
The response OK in this case would be false. That would cause the first alert to display. Now the cause for the second alert to display the failed to connect to the API, its caused is an error, an exception somewhere in the code. Something in the code just went bonkers, and if you didn't catch it, your app would crash. I mean, in the case of Chrome, it wouldn't actually crash, but it would break a lot of your functionality here, right? So in one case, we are checking whether a Boolean is true or false. In another place, there is an error, there's an exception, there is like a halt in your code, right? So it's important to notice that because the cause is different, the handling of these two cases is different, and indeed. When it comes to something checking like, if a response is okay, it's okay to put it in an if statement. But when you're dealing with exceptions and errors, you will not solve that with if statements, will you? Right? That's exactly why we have this try and catch clause to handle the exceptions and errors. Right?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm using the word exception and error interchangeably in this context.
Yeah.
We can call them the same. So I'm trying to lead you into thinking, right, we want to be handling errors here. So what can we do about the existing code so that we're fixing the issue I told you about, right, when we're actually displaying the correct message, but we want to be, the cause of what we're going to do is going to be an error, not just a response value or something like that. So if you can think of a variation that is going to take that in mind as well, that the cause that we're trying to deal with here is an error.
Well, I guess the catch catches the errors. So would you just have either like multiple or nested try and catch pairings, or can you like?
Yeah, go on. What are you going to
say? Can you have like multiple? Can you extract more? No, because there's not condition on that then.
No, hold on. Say it. You're going the right.
Yeah, I was going to say extract what the error is from whatever gets caught from the catch.
You can do that actually. So this is why
but it doesn't. Oh, okay.
To kind of follow that through. That's one way to do it. Absolutely. In fact, whenever we do catch an error, it's rarely. I don't think it's completely impossible, but it's rarely like a generic error. Normally, errors that are being thrown in or raised in apps are of specific type. Essentially, error is an object, just like your response is an object, or like your weather is an object, right? They're all just objects, and they, based on what type of objects there are, you can write different catch clauses that will respond to it appropriately. And let me just double check before I'm completely lying to you that in JavaScript this is how it works as well. Because that's how it works in many other languages, and I haven't written try catch for JavaScript for a while, so let's double check that. So I'm typing JavaScript try catch specific error, and let's double check if that is indeed the case. Right, so if you want to have a look at my screen just quickly, I'm going to do a screen share.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is one of the suggestions of how to do this. Do you see you have a try and then you have a multiple catch statements?
Okay, cool.
Right, so they go.
It's got conditionals, yeah.
Yeah, so inside of your catch clause you can say catch this, but only if, in this case, it's sender is specific, or and then handle a specific case. If the sender is unspecific, then perform something to that unspecific case. And if anything else happens, just pass it, let it go through. We don't want to catch errors that we don't know what to do with. We normally want to handle errors that we expect, and for unexpected errors, depending on the situation, but in some cases, you want to let them carry through so that they're verbose. They're not hidden away from the user, right?
Yes.
So in case of your app, you may want to do something similar, like say, okay, let's catch an error. By the way, here they don't write error as a full thing; they just say E, and they do some checking on it, right? They expect that this property will exist. We could check for whatever errors we're getting from the API and see if there's some property that we can find over there. Or another solution that is suggested over here is that in your catch clause, you simply do this one here. You do so you're just doing one try and catch, right? You're getting the error object, and you use the instance of. Have you seen that before?
Okay. No.
Right. So instance of is a keyword function that allows you to, it's like a built-in function, right? In JavaScript, that allows you to verify if a particular variable points to an object that is of a particular type. So you can say instance of specific error. In this case, specific error is an object. As you know, in JavaScript, objects are essentially functions. So this is why we see this piece of code here, right? So that's kind of another way to go about this. And I'm mainly pointing it out so that you know of this functionality. That once you catch it, you can either check the instance of a particular error, or you can check for some properties of that error to find out. Maybe if we scroll down, there is even more interesting. Somebody included a a library.
Finally,
Well, this probably is an extension, right? That is a library that you have to install.
But finally, I've come across before. That's if all else fails, then just do that.
Oh, that
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense.
There are these things, right? And if we go back to your code, there is actually a way of fixing that particular situation we had in a different way. But I just want you to be aware of the fact that once you catch errors, you can do what you suggested. So do a conditional and say, catch error, but only if error is, has some property. You can be as granular as you want. You can check for things that you really want, right? But my suggestion here is, right? So I'll give you the way that I'd go about it. Actually, there are two ways I'd go about it. One of them is good, one of them is not. So I want to kind of give you my idea, but also I want to highlight your way of thinking was absolutely correct. You can check what type of error you're getting, do some if statements in your catch clause, and based on that produce different alerts. Very good. It's a very good way to handle it. So one bad way that you could do this is you could change simply the message you're displaying on line 31. Right? Yes, we are interested in displaying, some error message about failing to connect to the API, but to solve simply the problem that we were speaking about, that our try catch encompasses more than just connecting to the API, we could just alter what we're displaying. We could say getting whether failed, try again, or something along these lines.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of failed to connect to the API. In this case, if set whether, if response.json, if response.ok, if query, not equals to empty, whatever, we make a mistake anywhere there, the message is still correct. Get whether has failed, and at least we give some verbosity. And there are reasons for why this is a bad idea. You probably want to be more specific about what goes wrong.
Yeah.
But that's kind of one way to fix that issue that we described earlier on. In which case, we were just inaccurate about our message.
Yeah.
But if we want to just stick to displaying what happens when we fail to connect to the API, well, my suggestion would be, right, now our scope that we try catching, right, our try scope essentially, is it's too long. It's between line 13 to line 29. I would simply wrap the actual thing that we care about, that we want to be verbose about, which is the await fetch. So instead of wrapping all of it with try and catch, I'd only wrap lines 17 to 19 with try and catch, and keep the alert message the same. That's right. And the only thing you have to follow that with is to make sure your scopes match. So now you move the try statement, but you haven't moved your catch statement, right? So we have a little bit of inaccuracy there.
Say again? So what?
So you moved your try. If you kind of shift your try catch, further or more outside of your scopes, you have to move the entirety of it. So both try and catch have to move. So you just move your try, which is good. Now you also have to move your catch nearby.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you want to move that entire 30 to 33, yeah, exactly. And perfect. Yeah, and now it's just indentation. You just have to fix that. Well done.
Boom.
Right, so what happens now? We call getWeather, we try to find out if query is not empty, and then we're gonna check for that response object. We're trying to fetch that response object, and in case that there's any issues with the response, with fetching that response, we're fetching that query that we want to get. We will display an error failed to connect to the API, but if anything is wrong with any other part of the code, we will not display that message. That will simply, it will rise an error like it normally would. The only problem that we have right now is that a try catch will not stop the execution of the code. So let's assume that we have a situation in which, we go through our line 15, we figure out that query isn't empty, so let's carry on. We open our try clause line 16, and then we do call our fetch on line 17, and it breaks. Some error is generated. So that is being caught, line 20, into our error. Then we console log it, we display it to the user, line 22. But the thing is that then all the code after that relies on response being generated, on response being returned, and it hasn't happened, right? There is an issue we're dealing with right now. So we need to pause we need to halt the execution of the code at this stage and say, well, if there is an error, we don't do anything else, right? So there's again a number of ways of doing it. The simplest one I can think about straight away is to simply return after alert. So after you do your first alert that failed to connect to the API, not quite here, because that will run just about anytime we call this function, and we only want to return if we catch an error, right?
Yeah. Down here?
No, the first alert. So if we do catch an error, yeah, right after we display a message, we just want to return, and we want to hold the execution of the code. That's right.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm only now worried that our response object is being defined in the const response. Inside of the try scope, may not make it available later for line 26 when we're in line 27 essentially. So let's see if that works. Although the fact that it's being grayed out by your IDE, on line 17, if you can see it, yeah, it's declared, but it's never read. So I'm feeling that this is not being passed over down to the response. Okay, and there's a way we can go about it. Yeah, exactly, that's what's happening. So we want to define that variable first, and then simply try to write into it inside of the catch, inside of the try. So the declaration of const response will have to happen outside of the try scope.
Okay.
If you've never done this, then it's not surprising. This may be a little bit confusing to you, but it's a pretty common sort of pattern you may see.
Yeah, if I just declare it, can I just write const response?
Exactly, equals
up
to
here,
equals to none. You initialize it to nothing, right? Like initialize it to.
So you have to make it like null as opposed to
yeah.
undefined const
Correct.
response. Like that.
Yeah, you could do that, and then.
Or what's the way you suggested then?
No, this is fine. This is perfectly fine. It's just now you also redeclare it on line 18. This is exactly the way I was going to suggest. By the way. So you're fine there.
So that one's grayed out now.
Yeah.
I know that was already.
So we don't want to redeclare it on line 18. We just want to assign to it on line 18. Do you know what's the difference? Yeah, perfect. See now, if the try does succeed, if line 18 executes correctly, what we declared on line 16, that variable will now carry whatever is returned from that fetch.
Yeah.
Right. And
cool.
And the only problem that we may run into that will not happen in this particular case, but you may want to also consider, is that at the time line 27 executes, so response.ok, we're checking for that, right? We assume that our code will never reach here if there's an error in fetching, right? Because we get to a catch, we go to alert the user, and then we return. So if there is an error, we never reach line 27, right?
Yeah.
But whilst it's maybe okay to do these kind of assumptions sometimes, it's also be better to prepare for a situation when we don't make an assumption like this. So on line 27, we may want to check not only if the response is okay, but if response is not null as well, whether the response has actually got any sort of data inside of it. So you probably want to do that kind of null checking before any other checks happen. So at the very beginning, you want to check, is your variable even initialized? Does it even carry anything? And it's as simple as checking, whether it is not equal to null.
Not equal to.
Yeah, because if it's equal to a null, then we want to do something else. Correct. And.
Oh, and.
Yes, and because if it's either null or not okay, then we don't want to execute the code inside of this statement. Yeah. If it's null or if the response is not okay, then we go to the else clause. In which case, yet again, our else clause became even more like inappropriate, right? Like it's messaging us of something else that it is. So I don't feel like we need to get into fixing those alert messages here because I can understand that you see this, but it's more about like this understanding the pattern of first you declare a variable that's empty, that's a null, then you try to assign something to it, and then you don't assume that all the code afterwards will not run. You assume that maybe this response will reach us because yes, we could have returned over here, but it's very easy to not return, or there could be reasons why you couldn't return at this stage. Maybe there is some code that you want to execute after you do if response okay, else something. Maybe after that there's some other code you want to run, so you can't return on line 24. In which case, I would even suggest let's get rid of that return. That return was there to kind of quickly show how we could solve it, but in the current situation, this code will run fine as well. Because if the response has failed in any way, we are getting an error. In this case, however, we will get both errors if the await fetch fails, we'll both get the fail to connect to the API, and because the response is null, we'll also get the city not in a database. So I would almost go ahead and suggest that you turn that one if statement into two if statements, and one being nested instead of another. We first check if response is null, in which case we execute the second if statement. It's going to be inside of it. So rather than doing just one if statement here, let's put if response is null into another line, into another if statement just above that.
Up here?
That's right, yeah. Yeah. And then this entire if else is going to be inside of it.
So that already is inside of it then, no?
Yeah, that's right. And you just need to add the curly brackets to make the syntax correct. That's right. Perfect. So that's one of the ways, again, to handle it. There could be a whole other number of ways you could think about doing this. But in here we have fixed it in a sense that our try catch actually deals with the thing that we want to alert about, and our functionality will carry on working even though the await fetch breaks, and we kind of prepared ourselves for all the kind of cases that we can think about right now. And maybe there's another case, but that's again not a point of the exercise to be exhaustive about it. It's more about getting this pattern of let's declare this variable early, let's try to assign to it, and based on whether this variable is still a null or not, we're gonna go ahead with our logic, or we're not, right?
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because in my head I'm thinking, just be aware that errors aren't just binary. It's not just it didn't work or woohoo.
Yeah.
There's multiple. You can break down why it didn't work, and also I think the keyword that I made a note of was where you expect it could potentially go wrong, such as we kind of know they might do this or they might do that, and if that's the case, then guide them in a non-verbose manner. This is what's wrong. Have you tried this?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Makes sense.
All right. Nice. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's carry on and look through the rest of the code, because we actually just dove into this get weather, try catch and all that. So we are already seen that last time. This is the way you've been handling your updates, right? And here we got the if statements for the background. So you're doing it as a if statement for this class name that you just simply alter. And I'm assuming in your CSS you define background sun, background no sun, and all that, right?
I did, possibly in quite an inefficient way. I'm sure there would be a way where I could keep, because basically all 4 backgrounds are pretty much the same, bar one line.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there is a way where I could just have 9 default fields, and all I'm doing is changing the background.
Oh, that's super easy. That's actually super easy.
But at the time, I just thought, let me just get it working.
No, and it's a good way to do it. So imagine we not only declare a class called background sun, background no sun, but we have 2 classes that we're going to be applying to that div. One class will hold all the things that are repeating, and the second class will hold things that change between them. And the first class will always be applied to that div, no matter what. We don't do statements there. It's just the second class that we're gonna change.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So hypothetically, I'd have background.
Correct.
And the 9 things that are consistent, and then I'd have background no sun with just that line in it. Background sun with just that line.
That's right.
And then in the weather, is it the weather app? No, it's in the app.
Yeah, here.
I would just have would I apply? I'd have to apply both styles, wouldn't I? So it'd be dot background and dot background sun.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can do it like the one that is consistent, the one that you don't run through the clauses, if clauses. You can just assign it as a traditional HTML attribute, like an element attribute. So inside of our class name, we're like doing the if statements, but can we add another attribute just called class, and there we say class equals background, and then class name will be. I'm not sure if React allows for that or not, so I'm not.
Yeah, I think it probably would. Yeah, because all this is doing is it's rewriting the whole thing. Whereas I could just split that into two and have class name, background, and then class name, and then add this type of conditionals. So yeah, I could have a fiddle, but.
So just a second. So you've got, actually it's interesting, so you've got class name and class attributes. There are two of them. And I'm trying to remember if I know why there are two and what do they mean.
I can tell you, boy.
Oh, please do. Go
ahead. Class name is basically React's version of class because class is a keyword in JavaScript.
Gotcha.
So it means the same thing. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Well, like you said, one kind of easy fix for this would be to simply go like a background space background sun, background space background no sun, and all that, right? And now you have two classes essentially you're attaching there. And that will simplify our CSS. Yeah,
that makes sense.
And let's have a look at your logic for the if statements. So you have successfully handled the missing case as well as the default case that happens.
Yeah, so that's what I added this morning. And I think one of these, I don't know which one, is the default, which is just the app class. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the else for whether main is undefined.
Yeah. So I did this as a ternary operator, which is probably not the best way to do it. But at the time, I knew if else would probably be better, but just managed to get this working and just rolled with it. But I did read somewhere that nested, or at least multiple ternary operator conditions is not advisable.
I guess for simple stuff that would be fine. Let's see if actually there is some if else inside of the JSX.
Yep.
So I did actually find a StackOverflow thread. If you just type sort of React HTML if, or like if else, I guess that will come out as well. Into Google, it's the first StackOverflow thing that comes up page, and there's a number of like suggestions that people come up with there. So I thought I'll maybe it would be a good idea if we just go over one of them. Oh, I think it's starting to rain. Yes, it is. Yeah, not burning, rain season coming in. So actually, yeah, the one I think that you're looking at right now, no, sorry, the one below it. So just a tiny bit lower than you already been there. Sorry, yeah, that middle, yeah, that one there. So that's kind of a way that I find. Yeah, it's raining. Marina is also excited about the rain. Right, so we've got like a number of ways we could handle this. Unfortunately, there isn't like a built-in JSX if clause, which makes things a little bit more difficult. So good news is a lot of people suggest doing what you did. So those kind of inline if statements, right, or ternary operators as you call them.
Exactly. Yeah.
But probably you want to be more verbose than that. in which case, it's kind of probably easier to read a code if you kind of break it down into these sort of substeps, right? So essentially, what we require here is to change that class name, the content of that class name. So essentially, 58 to 68. All these lines, we just have to go and we have to move them somewhere else, right? So we want to translate the code from these lines into traditional if statements, just pure JavaScript if statements, if else, right? And we want to be, rather than just sort of returning a string as we are in here, right? Like we had to return string undefined, string background sun, string background no sun, and all these. We want to assign these strings to a variable. And here in class name, we just simply take the value of that variable. That'll be all we need to do here. So the actual translation of all that out of that code to if else will take you a short while, but that will be the concept. So maybe let's at least give it a shot and start doing that to kind of give you an idea of how that transition will work. So let's just kind of do a brute force kind of edit first. Let's take everything from 58 to 68 and just cut it and paste it on line like 54.
That bit?
Yeah, all that. And just drop it in there for now. Syntax is going to be all off, but for now we don't know. And now we go back to the 69, the line 69, the class name definition, and we say, okay, here there's going to be a variable we're going to call background class, let's say.
A variable?
Yeah, just a variable. Yeah, we're going to create that variable later. We don't have it yet. But
okay, yeah.
Let's kind of work backwards here. Cool, that's it, right? And even we can collapse these curly brackets because it's quite simple. There we go.
Yeah.
Nice. Am I recording? Let's double check. Yeah, cool. Okay, so all we need to do now is to create that background class variable, right?
Yeah.
So let's also try to make it work backwards. Let's give it default value of what we want to be displayed by default in the app. If there is no clauses that have happened, let's have that variable contain the default background that we want to display.
It'll be app, but...
Yeah, it'll be app. What are you thinking?
Well, surely I don't just write app.
Well, no, we need a string in this case, right? Just the same way we were returning strings before, let's do a string now. Right? Do you see how in the text we copied, we returned strings? Background sun is a string, undefined is a string, app is a string. Same story.
Yeah, but how does that string know that it's referring to a CSS class?
It doesn't. You just have to ensure. Same question as before. How would it know before when you had it as JSX, ternary kind of if statement? How did it know that then? It didn't. You as a coder knew that this is the class that you're using.
Yeah, but I also couldn't figure out, although this is a string and we know that it's relating to a CSS class.
Yeah.
How does the code know that? Because we could have this set to anything. We could say if whether and whether is that set this variable to say Billy.
Yeah, that's right.
But how does this know that we're pointing it to a CSS class?
At this stage, it doesn't know it. All it is a string.
Okay.
Stage it doesn't know that.
Got
it's only
okay.
that when it comes to actually displaying the HTML, the value class will have background sun, and then it does it just like if you normally assign a class. It says, oh, is there a background sun class, and it carries on. So at this stage, it doesn't. It's completely agnostic of it.
Okay.
You can probably make it related and like make a relationship there, but I don't think anybody does.
Mm-hmm.
So you just rely on the fact that these two things match. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we've got that, and we hopefully by doing this you'll also notice that let's see, expected unassignment of function constant so expression. I have a feeling that simply the code between 55 and 65 is not valid JavaScript.
Yeah, of course,
it breaks. Yeah, so we won't see the results straight away. Yeah, you could comment it out. That's right. All right, well, at least we got that far. It's just the remaining functionality will not work. Oh, okay, we didn't test that, did we? We broke something up there. Let's see. Actually, did we remove the double P from the...
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what the console log says. Let's see what we're actually getting.
Oh.
Assignment to constant variable good weather. Yes, so we define response as constant. I thought about that as well, but I wasn't quite sure if we should change it. Response cannot be constant anymore. It has to be a let, right? Or
yeah,
that's
makes
right.
sense.
Yeah, actually, I read it later. I mean, I thought about it later, and I was like, "Shit, I should definitely not say that." But it worked, and the fact is, no, it didn't. We just didn't try it out. There we go. Cool. So that worked.
And it's default background, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Only half of it, weirdly.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
It's scale. Yeah. So as you can tell,
Cool,
I
okay.
shouldn't be the one teaching you basic mistakes right in your code.
No, but that's a good catch, because I in all the tutorials I've done, 98% of the time it's const.
Is it?
Just by either happenstance or I vaguely remember reading, do const by default unless you know you want to change it. But we didn't think.
That's funny. Okay, well, I suppose if that's the standard these days.
Yeah.
I remember like let being kind of a standard, but I didn't really give it a second thought. So yeah, fair enough. Cool. So let's go ahead with this logic here. So first thing we have to do is to check if where the main is not undefined. Right. So we will be changing this variable background class depending on the conditions, and we'll do any of these conditions only if whether main is not undefined. Right. So what we need to follow the const background class is simply an if statement checking for the same condition. The actual the bodies of your if statements you can copy paste, like your whether main not equals to undefined. That alone you can. Yeah, and just whack it into an if statement just below that. Ooh, just without that surprising indentation, and that will be fine.
Yeah, don't know why I did that.
Right. So so we do change background class only if whether.main is not undefined. Otherwise, we don't do anything, right? We keep it background class equals to app. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can see already we reduced those two lines into one. Essentially, we don't have to do else background class equals to app. We don't do that anymore, right? Just like you did on line 65, right? That's essentially what 65 did. It was doing else app, right? And you'll probably see it already. Line 64 will get simplified as well in a similar manner.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the first of our if clauses has to go in there. So line 56, let's copy that if statement and simply put into an if statement right there.
Inside here?
That's right. Yeah, we do the same way as before. We only did these if statements only if whether.main was not undefined. Yeah, what was?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so it is a nested.
Yeah, so we do the same thing here. Perfect.
I don't need it twice.
That's right.
I do.
You can, you may not. Like it's kind of good either way. And we just need to open the. Yeah, that's right. And what do we do now? Well done. Right. So a piece of advice that may or may not help you. It's very easy to misspell something like a CSS class when it's a string. Super annoying bug to find because everything will work, you'll get no errors, and just your functionality will not be there. So in this case, when you have already verified that those strings work above in line 57, 59, 61, it's safer to actually just copy it because you got that little extra bit of verification that okay, at least I'm not introducing that error here. And it doesn't happen that often, but maybe like once a month, once every couple of months, you'll spell background and swap, C and K, something along these lines.
I see what I mean, yeah. So I haven't done that in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Good tip.
So here you have the same thing, that is true, but it will save you a headache sometime down the line. So there's something with this code, and I'm wondering if you can what is wrong with it. That's good as well. Yeah. There's still something else that's wrong with it. So don't run the code yet. Don't use the app. I just want you to think about that little snippet we just wrote, 67 to 72, and it's related to something we just fixed. Not just a short while ago. Good man. Well done. All right.
Cool. Is it an if else?
There'll be probably else if. I don't think you have elifs in JavaScript, so it'll be just else if.
So I need another conditional.
Yeah, just else if. Yeah, and you're essentially just now going through one by one and copying them.
Oh fuck.
Right, I want to show you something interesting. Just there.
Yeah. Have
you heard of multi-cursor in an IDE, in a text editor?
Yes.
Multi-caret. Do you know what it is?
I think so, yeah. So it's like if I was to have background class, and if I go Command D, I can highlight 3 of them and change all 3 at the same time.
Nice. That's one way to use it. Yeah, that's right. Essentially, you can. I think in VS C you can just Alt click anywhere. Try doing that. So holding Alt and just clicking somewhere. No, that didn't work. Oh, it does. Yeah. So you can drop these extra carrots as you like. Yeah.
Carrots.
I think that's what you call them. Yeah, carrot. That's this little dash.
Never heard it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people call it cursor as well, but I think it can be carrot too. Or I could be just lying to you. I think that's what they call it.
I like it. I like
it. So obviously we're already halfway through this exercise of copying these values around, but I thought it would be a fun little way to introduce you into these things. So let's try to actually do both of the remaining 2 statements at the same time, and that's a good exercise into editing a little bit faster. So essentially, what he wants to do is to drop 2 carrots in 2 of these lines that you're copying from, but at the same place in relation to that particular line. So we want to copy line 60 and 62, right? That's our objective right now.
Yeah.
So we want to, drop 1 caret, let's say at the beginning of line 60, and another caret at the beginning of line 62. That's right, and then just an Alt click over there. Perfect. So now you have both of them, and now using your keyboard rather than your mouse, because your mouse kind of fades away as soon as you do multi-carets, you want to select, all of it. You do that. You do the same, but with a shift, and you'll select what you need. Wicked. Now you just copy that. Go here and just paste it. Yeah, and again, multi-caret again, because we're going to be doing the same addition for both of these. some multi-caret at the beginning of these two if clauses.
Here and here.
Yeah. And now you write the same code for both of them. So what would you write if it was just one of them?
Okay.
Cool. Now at the end of this line you have to... Oh, no, not quite here. Oh, is that a normal bracket? Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then go to the end of the line, and again, 2 carets, so you can either... Oh, I just added 2 more, so now we have 4 of them.
Okay.
Keep that in mind.
Come out of it.
That's right. So that one and the other one, and then the open bracket, right? The curly bracket. Yeah, that's right. Perfecto, right? And you can do the same for copying the, that bit. So I know at the moment all these shortcuts may sound and feel a little bit difficult to use, and like you have to look at your keyboard a lot. So in this case, actually, if you did have multi-carets here, it would have pasted the first line where the first caret was, second line where the second caret was.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Do you want to try doing that? So undo these two changes you just did, and just drop the second caret in the second. Oh, no, not quite that. Yeah, open that. There you go. And now paste. See?
Okay.
Oh
yeah.
no, it didn't fucking do that. Oh, because it didn't do that because you did a copy in between. Like you pasted 2, you cut one of them, and that has overridden your, your buffer, your whatever you call that, right? Your
Gotcha.
clipboard. That's the word. Yeah.
However, let me try this. Oh no, that's not like, no, why is it adding it there?
Yeah, you'll feel that for a bit. You'll see how it works. It's very useful. Like using multi-caret in general, it's quite powerful when you're doing a lot of repetitive.
There we go.
Good man. And the only thing we need to fix is, like I said, we pasted 2 of the same strings. So we have background sun clouds, background sun clouds. Like I said, because that little copy you did in between.
Oh, you fucker. Actually, that is what I wanted to do.
Jack. Perfecto. Cool. Well done.
Is that it?
That was it, yeah.
Ah, cool. So let's give it a go then. So I always know Kaboul's my go-to super hot place. Yeah, that still works.
Good job.
London's the weird one. Lots of cloud, yeah. Yeah, everything seems like it works. What's the
Nice.
default was working? Union Jack, so we want somewhere that's misty. Where's going to be misty at this time? It was Boston the other day. Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Cool. All right, yeah. So this is what I kind of had in my head, but wasn't sure, A, how to do if-else in plain JavaScript, let alone nested within React.
Sure, yeah.
But now I do, so
Yeah,
awesome.
That's useful piece of knowledge. You'll do a lot of that, essentially, in building apps, kind of doing if statements inside of your HTML. It's very cool. Cool pattern.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, well, let's scroll down. Let's quickly go over what else we've got left in there. But I remember looking through that already on the other run through when we did, the last time debugging of the.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
just the main.
Perfect. Yeah, you got your classes in there. Nice. And the weather.js. How does that look?
Ah, you. God damn you, Zoom.
Okay.
So yeah, this is where I've got my logic for the sunrises and the country code.
Decent.
So yeah, so I'm using, like I said, I made one for sunrise and one for sunset, but I can probably make one function that will convert whatever I stick into it.
Yeah.
So I could make that a bit more efficient, but
that's
cool.
fine. It's nice you're actually getting that icon from Open Map. That's decent.
Yeah. Because Open Data provides that icon, so it's just a case of
Sure, yeah.
adding it to state, passing it in as a prop, and then displaying it.
It's a nice little addition as well. Like it's pretty cool.
I tried to make it a bigger icon, so that this would be bigger.
Yeah.
But didn't quite work out how to do that.
It's fine.
Yet.
Again, I don't think it's that important at this stage. But no, good. Perfect. Right, so you remember when we did that little debugging session last week, we spoke about how could we prevent the app from redrawing the weather component every time we typed. Did you give that a shot?
No.
Right. Fair.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, that was what was causing the GURs, wasn't it?
The GURs, yeah, and essentially recreating the weather component on every update. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I think I commented out the GUR.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
That
was it. Yeah.
Cool. Right. So I would say, yeah, like it definitely looks like when we can move over to building something else. However, it will, I'm probably going to take maybe a couple of days to come up with it. So it would be good if you've got something else to do in the meantime. And I would say
always
trying to implement that functionality that will prevent these redraws could actually be worth looking into. So trying to find out how we can prevent that from happening.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're essentially looking for React prevent redraw on state change or anything along these lines. There's again a number of methods. If you can use any of them to make that happen, that would be cool. If you can't figure it out in the end of the day, then just ping me a message and I'll show you the actual functionality that I found that you can
cool.
utilize for that. So it's quite useful to actually just get that skill, in your pocket before we move ahead. Because to me, at least, it sounded like a pretty important thing. I don't know why React works this way, but we'll just try to fix it. So we get more skill. No, but well done. Like it's really well written. There, no doubt there are probably some things that we could optimize here and there, and simplify maybe. But for the first sort of partially proprietary kind of self-written app, I think it's a good job. It's fairly advanced, using the external API and getting to use a framework to display your data and making the data dynamic and respond to to the inputs. Perfect, well done. Nice kind of good sort of usage of these if-else clauses for reacting to some error states of the response. So handling that was good. Like I said, we may need to be more specific, so keeping that in mind, being specific about like what do you display to the users, right? As well as remembering what you try catching, like making sure that it's on you're not sort of hiding errors away. That's essentially was the point about that, right? That you do only try and catch things that you think you're trying catching, not too much unnecessarily. But all in all, these are probably more advanced than you should expect yourself to sort of know at a glance straight away, simply because I don't think you even come across some of these issues that I've been highlighting today. So again, I think you can definitely pat yourself on the back being able to go through it, and well done, honestly, well done. Good job,
Thank you very much, mate. No, and it's been an awesomely set challenge. So I just want to convey that back to you, that you because my level, I can do some of it, but some of it I'll also have to learn and look at different ways of doing it. So I cannot thank you enough for setting such a good, appropriate level challenge. So
no worries.
Awesome.
No worries, man. Yeah, glad to hear that it worked out.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, because that's one thing I'd also like to get into the habit is acknowledge my progress. Like I was just looking at my old videos the other day and looking how much I not did the stage I was at even like 10, 20 days ago, and I look at what I'm capable of doing now. It's like, shit, that's quite a big jump in a few days.
Oh,
and I was I've I've had a couple of days the last couple of weeks where I've been in an absolute mood for the whole day because I couldn't work something else out. You know, people are like, everything all right, Sam? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, but I'm just properly pissed off.
Oh man,
Nothing
that's so
to do
common.
with you guys, but it's just me. And again, I've never had that. Well, I'm sure I've had it before, but when it comes to code, being able to just walk away and just let it go and go and live your life until you come back to the code again. And sometimes even walking away gives you the solution.
Oh, it does, man. The amount of times I dreamt a solution to my code, you have no idea.
Yeah.
It actually happens. You just switch off and somehow it comes in your dream. You wake up in the morning and you know how to do it. So it does help.
So, I mean, that even happened to me because I was having trouble with the classes. Like, I remember at the end of one of my sessions, I was changing the div. Like, React was changing what it was supposed to be doing, but the background wasn't changing. And I remember waking up and my brain popped up and said, oh yeah, it's probably because it hasn't got that full stop in front of the class. So I got up, went downstairs, just went, there it is. So the brain did do it, and I know it's capable of doing its magic when you're not thinking about it. So getting into the habit of allowing that to happen rather than staring at the screen and getting even more pissed off because you can't work it out.
True,
so I've learned so much psychologically over the last, whenever we started this project, not just about the code, but how to emotionally travel through working through projects. Yeah. So it's been invaluable on that note as well. So
yeah, fair play. No, I'm glad to hear, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, these are all very valuable lessons on the psychological level, like you're saying. I feel that maybe with time you'll get used to that feeling of inability to some degree, which will take the stress out from the equation.
Yeah.
It doesn't I feel at my stage it doesn't anymore convert into stress. It converts into curiosity. Like, I just really want to know how to fix it, but it doesn't piss me off anymore. Like, it sometimes does.
Yeah.
Mainly things that piss me off at this stage would be something is said to work in a particular way and it doesn't, and like maybe the documentation is is flawed, or like I'm following some guideline, and despite following it step by step, I'm still getting wrong result because there's like a clause that it's written somewhere else and you have to dig through pages to find that out.
Yeah.
So these kind of things do still cause some anger with me. But when it comes to more sort of it's a piece of code that I need to figure out, even if it takes me a long amount of time, just the kind of the knowledge acquisition, it's more like, I'm just super curious, right? So I feel like I can also recall that when I started, it wasn't so easy. I also felt frustrated because of inability. Like, you know it's doable, but you just don't know where to start, don't know who to ask, don't know what question to ask, right? So you're just staring at it thinking, fuck. And again, when moments like that happen, I can only reiterate back to this method of, if you were to give it a shot at the smallest step possible, just what would that be? And try that. It doesn't have to be the solution to the complete problem, but the smallest step you could take to get you in the direction where you need to be going, how is that going to help? Then once you figure that out, implement that, and from there, repeat, and at least you get somewhere which will work to some extent, right? And then you just reiterate it and make it work better, and at least you get over those frustrating barriers of, well, where do I even start? Looking at this, right?
Yeah, and also just your debugging tips and those few days I spent enables me to then iterate, because a week or so ago I would attempt it, but then I'd be like, well, shit, it was binary. It's like, well, it doesn't work. It's like, well, okay, well, what do I do now? Whereas now I'm able to iterate and go, well, okay, well, that didn't work, let me try this.
Correct.
Like, without that debugging knowledge, you're lost. You're so lost.
True. I didn't realize debugging is so essential until we had that call, and you told me, like, I don't know what to read here. Like, where do I look? Because it's assumed that someone will have told you this, and I bet every tutorial maker assumes the same, right? So an essential skill, isn't it? Like, just so essential to be able to stop there and figure that out.
Yeah, because it's kind of different to troubleshooting in as much that it's not uncommon that I've followed along tutorials word for word, but something hadn't quite worked in my version. So then you have to go and figure it out. But that's rarely to do with the logic. It's more to do with like a syntax error, which you can find quite easily. But when it comes to debugging your logic, which is kind of the new thing that we were doing, that's a different skill than just finding a missing semicolon.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because it's all based on the fact that when you construct your logic, you make assumptions, and you most likely got something wrong in these assumptions, and it's about verifying these assumptions. That's essentially what you're doing. So to go through every assumption line by line, does that variable hold the value that I think it holds? Does that if statement execute when I think it should execute? It's all going to give you like this very linear path of figuring out what's wrong. It's not a look at all your code and just guess what's wrong with it. No, it's much more, well, where the starting point is, and if you just take direct linear steps in a direction that your logic dictates, your flow of control dictates, you will finally find it. And there is still few errors that you will not find this way, and these are a lot more annoying to find, but in big majority of cases this will just help you find it, and that'll be it. For instance, actually, unfortunately, we did run into one of these annoying errors that we couldn't find using this technique, which was realizing that the entire DOM gets redrawn, right? We spent some time last session trying to figure out why is it that we are getting the this recurring kind of recreation of the weather component on and on every time we typed, and we tracked every possible flow of control in our app, and once the moment we hit the wall and I could not think of any other kind of direction that the control could go, like instantly I just clicked thinking maybe this is the way it's meant to be. Something that you don't normally assume. Oh, it's meant to go against your assumptions. Like the whole thing is built against your assumptions, right? It's difficult to come up with this sort of hypotheses straight away. But essentially, when you do hit like impenetrable walls like this, when you go like, well, I did follow back every possibility, I verified every assumption, and things still go against me, it's probably a good moment when you start asking yourself sort of lower level questions on am I even in the context that I think I'm in? Because the context we were in and making all these tests that we were doing was in the context was that React doesn't redraw the entire app whenever or the entire app component, right? Whenever we change one of its states. And in that context, we did our best, right? So you kind of linearly take yourself through that debugging process, going back and forth in some cases. But there is a moment when you just go, maybe my context is just wrong, and I'm making a like big scale assumption that's wrong. In which case that was the case, right? Is quick query, quick Google, and I found out, that this is the issue. It will indeed get redrawn. That's just behavior, right? So now we at least know which direction we're going, right? And go from there.
Cool. Yeah. I'll have a dabble.
Cool. So try to figure that out. But I'm thinking also, since like we'll be closing this app right now, what do you think? What was the most difficult thing for you in this particular project?
As a whole, just taking the stabilizers off, being able to not have anything to refer to.
Okay.
So on a zoomed out level, it was just the fact that I'd made that jump out of tutorial HAL, and it was like, oh shit, I'm on my own now and I don't know where to start. So dealing with that overwhelm as a whole was one major thing. In terms of the code, I guess it did just highlight how much of the basics I hadn't practiced on my own. So something as simple as the if-else stuff that we've gone through today, I've never really done that on my own or to that extent. Yeah, I did it in Codecademy 4 months ago, but to do it live and actually do it with your own data and not copy, I really struggled just doing basic JavaScript logic.
Okay.
The API stuff I actually found quite easy because I'd seen it in action in the recipe apps. I was like, oh, okay, well, I just need to change that, and that, and then
that's
job done. So
actually,
I finished that. That was the easiest part. Getting the props to display without any debugging knowledge. that was one of my hurdles. But once I got over that, I was able to add a lot of the stuff and Google how I would do certain things. So yeah, it was a big challenge because it was my first proper challenge. And the hardest thing was just being able to do it on your own.
Okay, by play.
I look back and I did it, obviously with some help and with a lot of Googling and shoehorning, but in terms of getting an app that did the main 3 or 4 things that was on the spec, job done.
Well done. Cool. No, and it's actually good
and it
to
looks
know.
half decent.
Yeah, as well.
Which is only a minor thing, but I do have a design eye, so to speak. So it doesn't look like amazing, but it looks a lot better than bog standard, non-well designed apps.
Yeah, which again, I think it's worth that you do put that day extra to link it up in some fancy design library that makes it more consistent. So definitely a good step there. I didn't actually think about putting in a spec, but I was really happy that you did it because I was thinking of just telling you to spend a day on that at some point anyway. So well done. On that note, maybe I just quickly mention, although that's really minor, you probably want to avoid doing the alerts to tell the user that something is wrong. It's a very rarely used piece of kind of UX that you'd actually utilize.
Yeah.
You normally have somewhere on your app some like custom functionality that you use for displaying messages, and it could be as simple as like extra paragraph in your in your actual app display that normally is hidden, but when there is an error you display it.
So I did actually add that to my list here. Look, custom alerts. So get it to appear in boxes as opposed to via the browser. But
it's minor.
But knew it was possible.
Yeah, it's more on a UX note than anything.
Yeah, but no, all worth knowing because at some point I'll have to do it. So
true, and to be fair, this exercise wasn't about creating clear alerts and having a clear UX. It was about everything else. So you utilized the simplest form, and that was fine. And that's a good choice. Alerts are good for testing things out at different stages, like they're good debugging tools, I think. But I don't think they're really used much other than that. On professional, published, production websites, I feel the general feeling they give these days, it's more spammy than anything. Like when you have a pop-up suddenly on you that screams in your face, it doesn't feel right, and often the message isn't important enough to display something that kind of stimulating. So it's more on that, but again, not a major issue or anything.
Yeah,
Cool, man. Yeah, I think that'll be it when it comes to the weather app. I mean, let's do that extra step to see if we can fix the display issue, the repeated display. But other than that, it's more or less done.
Sweet. No, thank you, mate.
Cool.
Much
so
appreciated.
I'll try to put together something in the following days.
No rush, mate. Honestly, I've got plenty to learn and practice and read about in the meantime. So
cool.
Yeah, no massive rush or pressure. But I back you to come up with a decent. And I'm happy to do another interaction with an API and display it using React. I'm not angling to do crazy new projects. I just thought I had a few ideas of stuff that was probably not too dissimilar to a weather app or a recipe app, but just was around. It had a more relevant context to me. But
yeah, sure.
If you want, I can just show you quickly what I thought of as potential ideas, and you can say that's too complicated. That's cool. Let's just do what I was thinking, but just do it collecting this data instead of that data. So
let's see. Should we do it? All right. How long is the list?
Not that long. I can literally fly through it. Okay. Because there's only really one or two which are sort of potential ones.
Sure.
So I'm just thinking maybe you could look at it and go, oh yeah, that's actually a cool idea, and we can also do this on top of it.
Sure.
So let me scroll down to my ideas when it comes. Actually, let's make that smaller. So yeah, these are all static site ideas, dynamic site. Yeah, a coaching question generator. So I would have either a database or somewhere where I've got a whole list of questions, and you just click a button and it generates a new question each time. I've seen others. I mean, this is way simpler than a weather app. It was just, that'd be quite a cool idea to have coaching questions rather than whatever else they normally have on just a repeat. The other one, which was which I would actually use, is some sort of, I've got a database of say 10 audio files, and all it is it's a player that can go and request the audio file, and then it's just a bog standard player within an app that just plays that music file, and then it's just on like a random shuffle. So it's almost like an MP3 player, but those audio files are chosen by me because they get me into flow state. So someone could potentially just fire up the app, click play, and it'll play curated house music, basically. So super simple, but could interact with a database somewhere. And it doesn't have to have any other functionality other than play and next track.
Cool.
And those were sort of the main two which I thought we could potentially do, but honestly fine if they don't fit, and I can quite happily do whatever.
Okay, no, I thought this is the whole list we're going to be looking at.
Those are sort of yeah. I mean, the other ones I've got are more. They would take a lot more functionality, which I already know is way above my level. But these were just. I just had a day when I just sat there and thought, what would I actually use? What would be cool to make? And some of these I know were like a random question generator, that's a bog standard vanilla project, which could probably be done quite easily. But
yeah, so the music generator, there's one factor I feel you're not taking account for, is that you'd have to be streaming the data. Right, so it's not so much fetching it, but it's streaming it.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a different story, right? So when you, for instance, get a fetch from a server, you just get sort of a whole entity, like the whole, data item that you're interested in, which internally does get sent as various packets, but end of the day you receive one entire sort of object by the end of it. Whilst here, you have, let's say, 10 minutes, of MP3, you'd probably stream it rather than download the entire thing first, because that would just cause too much of a wait time on an end user. Which is where we'd open just yet another level of complexity. Not to say I feel that it would be particularly complex, but it's like I feel streaming is very rare knowledge. Like unless you do an app that directly deals with streaming, which let's admit there isn't many, you never sort of use this functionality. So I feel it would be cool, like a little project to maybe look into. But I feel like at this stage, it wouldn't expose you to enough sort of common concepts that I feel we need to grind down onto. Because, like you say, once you figure out that streaming, but it actually is pretty simple. Like it's just play, pause, and kind of that,
Good
right?
point. Yeah.
So we want to be looking at expanding your other skills than streaming, which in this case is just not needed. Like you'll easily land the job.
Valid point. Yeah.
Never do streaming,
cool.
right? And the other one, the question generator. So you're saying that you'd like prepare like a JSON file with all these questions already in there, and then you'd simply display
an
a
array.
random one. Yeah, or an array. Yeah, like
and again, that is fairly simple. So it wouldn't be like a main project. It would just be a cool thing I cool probably knock up in a weekend, and would actually be fairly useful to some of my coach friends.
Cool.
If that's, I'm happy to do that at a later date. So
no, I mean, seeing that is quite straightforward, because you're saying literally just having a button which says generate, and then have a random question appear from your list underneath it. That's right.
Yeah, because I've got a document of probably like thousands of questions which I've collated over my years.
All right.
So it's not passed into JSON, but I've got some really good questions that could help other coaches, you know, if they're either stuck in a session or they just want to learn some new questions, they just click a button and it fires off. So again, super simple.
Yeah.
But again, would it give me more extra knowledge at this stage? Probably not a massive amount compared to if we did another.
No, but what I'm thinking
project.
is that the key thing we want to try next time is you building an app from scratch by yourself, not copying any code, not starting from any template. So the simpler we can make it, probably the better. And since you feel like doing this one, you'd have good motivation to keep on pushing. I'm thinking it may not actually be such a bad idea to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I could do it in React and it just updates the question generator component.
Yeah, so you'd have a state, right? That simply updates every time that somebody presses a button, and that content of that state will be based on something you read from an array, from a JSON file.
Yeah.
You would introduce the concept of randomness, which I don't know if you played with already.
No.
Right, so there are libraries, like built-in libraries, standard libraries, in just about every language that deal with it.
Yeah.
And without getting into like depths of, is it really truly randomly generated, or is it like pseudo random? Like we'll leave all that on the side, you know, just a matter of using like a simple random generator. Because you'll essentially have to, you know, select at random one of these texts, right? So it's a question, how do you do that, right? No, actually, it's not a bad idea. So, I mean, let's keep that in mind. I'll give that a think. But I think it's a pretty good suggestion, actually.
Yeah, with 2 extra features potentially.
Copy question to clipboard, and tweets. Also like to have like a button that will make a tweet. Yeah, so we'll keep that probably as optional.
Yeah.
Like once we get the main thing, we could think about putting these 2 in. But the core thing we want to check here is like where are the roadblocks for like building a simple app from scratch, right? With as little copying from other apps as you can.
Yeah.
Like it's perfectly fine, I think, to look up stuff in the different apps, even in, like, you know, look at the weather app. How did you do it back there? But trying as much as you can, not copying it. Even though later you wouldn't have to do that as tightly, you can copy your own code to different apps. It's more about if you can, like, you know, put that limit on yourself, where will you stop? And maybe we'll catch some other areas that will be difficult there. So cool.
Yeah, cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah, like I said, mate, I'm happy to not do any of what we just talked about and just go wherever you go, because I know you'll know what will be worth learning, where the challenges are, where the gaps are. Mine were just a suggestion, like I said, just to make it slightly more interesting. Not that the weather one wasn't, but like you say, if it's something that I'd actually be interested in, I'm gonna be even more motivated to do it, because, you know, I'm never going to use this weather app, but I was still motivated enough to finish it because I wanted to. And I think also going back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of mood and stress, I think the fact that I hadn't built anything yet doubled the frustration. Whereas now I've got that first project under the belt, I'm less fussed about it. I'm like, okay, well, at least, like, I can demonstrate, I can at least do this now.
Well, exactly.
So everything after this is just a bonus. But up until I got to that stage, I realized that was where I was getting anxious. It was like, well, I can't do it, but I need to do it because I need to get one app done, and I need an app to get a portfolio. And it's like, But we live, we learn.
But fair point. Well, remember it, because it'll never happen again. You'll never be building your first app ever again.
Good. But no, honestly, just all worthwhile learning. So cool. Well, I'll let you crack on then, dude. Thanks again, as always, for your time and your input and your challenge setting.
Fair enough.
I'll have a dabble, see if I can work out that React thing, and I've got plenty to do in the meantime. But yeah, I await Project 2 challenge whenever you're ready, mate.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I'll just give it a thought. But first thing, let's try to see if we can fix that issue with the current app. Get that out of the way. Yep. And I'd say after that, let's just jump to the next one.
Yeah, actually thinking about it, the other thing I was going to do was merge back in this dev version into my
Oh yes, we did say that.
thingy build. Yeah.
Did you?
So
did you
Yeah, 'cause I
build this new feature on another branch?
Yeah, I've been on my dev branch, all of this. I forgot to do the CSS in another branch.
Right, okay.
But at the moment, this current app is still the dev version.
Right.
And the one that's hosted on GitHub Pages is the production build, or whatever it is, the main one. So at some point, I'd like to update back in, but I can either figure that out or we can do that another day. But
but so
it's not important at this stage.
So it would be good to verify that as well now. When you do this little extra fix that we're talking about now, so getting that repetition of redraw fixed, try doing that on a separate. So commit your changes to your dev branch out to bug fix, React repetition branch, whatever you want to call it, right? Give it a name that's meaningful to you, and then do that fix on that branch. Once you're done with that, we're going to merge that back into your dev, and then we're going to merge your dev into production. Does that make sense?
Advanced. It did, yeah. That wasn't what I was expecting.
Can I share my screen with you?
Yeah, sure.
We'll just do a bit of paint. Why not? Right, so your branch, is that gonna look fine? Let's give it a color. So your dev branch is this, and we made a production branch.
Correct.
We have that. So what I'm asking you to do is, before we do that, before we merge them together, I want you to branch out from your dev only to create, come on, give me a different color, only to create that little fix. So don't put the fix directly on your dev branch, put it on this separate branch. Okay? And this is, when you're a single developer, there is very few reasons for doing it this way, but it's more about like you getting used to this pattern of doing stuff this way. So that once you've done it, you committed your changes, your fix is on this branch, it's not on your dev branch, and then we merge it back into your dev branch. So I want you to kind of go over that little cycle of like branching out of your main, of your development branch, going into a separate branch where you just like do a bug fix or add a new feature. Like this is a very common pattern in working in teams, especially, right? Where you just go out for a bit, and after you're done with it, you merge it back into the main. Okay?
Yeah.
And then once we're done with that, we're actually gonna take this and merge it into your production branch. Right? And I obviously need to take a course on planning, because that's not how.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I've done a screenshot of that because it's cool to see it visualized.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? So we're interested in, where's the highlighter? In doing this bit over here. Well, that didn't help now, does it?
Yeah, I get it though. Yeah.
There we go. That bit. That's the one you want to do, right? And then we'll follow it up with merging it into the main.
Cool. No, that'll be good practice.
So try that. Commit your changes first. You need to commit whatever you did until now first, so you are gonna end up here. And once you do end up here, you want to go ahead and branch out from your dev, do the changes, merge them back in, and then maybe we can even do a pull request over here, and you'll go over the pull requests. So before you merge, stop over here as well, and we'll do a pull request and a pull PR review, so you get a feel for what that is as well.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds wicked.
Cool beans.
Yeah. Nice one, mate.
All right. Well, I guess that'll be it. Good job with the weather app. Well done.
Thank you, mate. No, awesome. Appreciate your setting.
No worries.
Go and enjoy the rest of your evening, mate. Enjoy the rain. Maybe go out and dance in it. And thanks for wearing a t-shirt for 2.5 hours.
No worries. Well, I wasn't as sweaty as I thought it would be.
That's because it's been raining.
Right. Cool.
Wicked. All right, mate. I will chat to you soon.
Definitely. Take it easy, man.
Wicked. See you later, bro. Bye-bye.
Bye.